first time ever on this channel, we will take a deep dive into the PlayStation Portable library and explore emulation with PPSSPP running on Logitech's G Cloud Handheld, which is primarily a cloud gaming driven device. For more on that device, please check out my full in-depth look of the handheld on my channel. For the sake of this video, however, I wanted to explore what the device can do with emulation, in particular PSP because of its fantastic 16:9 7-inch display and its super comfy and lightweight setup. So join me, the Retro Tech Dad, as we explore the possibilities of emulation on Logitech's first ever handheld gaming device. Together, we can answer the question and find out if the Logitech G has what it takes to be the Super PlayStation Portable. Okay, so let's talk the setup. Every game here is running in PPSSPP Gold. We are using the Vulkan backend for every game. For the sake of simplicity, every game is running at 3 times native resolution. Some games might have trouble staying at that resolution. I will let you know if any of them do during the video. In addition, I will be taking advantage of some high definition texture and user interface packs that are readily available on the internet. Now, I didn't use this for every game on here, but I thought it would be fun to try them out. Once again, I will let you know games that have these available during the video. However, I do have a link down below to the PPSSPP forums where you can find a list of all the projects available for the PSP. So here's a quick look at my settings. Now for our metric, we are going to examine the top 25 PSP games on Metacritic using PPSSPP running on the Logitech G Cloud. So with all that info, let's head right into our first game. Coming in at number 25 with a Metacritic score of 85 is Syphon Filter Logan's Shadow. This will not be the last time we see Syphon Filter on this list, and Logan's Shadow is actually the second Syphon Filter game on the PSP. This game builds a lot on what made the first one great on the PSP, and if you're not familiar, is a game that combines stealth and run and gun mechanics while taking control of main character Gabe Logan. It's got a very solid story and really does push the boundaries of what one would expect out of a handheld title in 2007. Sadly, this would be the last time we see the Syphon Filter franchise on any PlayStation platform. The game runs and looks fantastic here at 3 times native resolution. Next up, at number 24 with a Metacritic score of 85 is the sequel to one of my absolute favorite PSP games, Loco Roco 2. Similar to Logan's Shadow, if you are already familiar with the original Loco Roco, then you should know what to expect here. While it doesn't bring a whole lot new to the table, more Loco Roco is never a bad thing, and the environments, music, platforming are all as good as ever. This is one game that in particular always cleans up nicely with higher resolutions, and the colors just pop on the awesome 7-inch display of the Logitech G. Who needs a remastered version when this just looks fantastic here? Number 23 comes in with another Metacritic score of 85. Daxter is the first time our lovable orange Ottsel gets the spotlight by being featured in his own game. Ready at Dawn Studios were absolutely brilliant on the PlayStation Portable. They were truly one of the premier developers for the platform, and Daxter is no exception to this, providing fans of the Jak and Daxter series a tremendous experience that builds off the story of the main series. I remember picking up the silver Daxter bundle to get my hands on both the game and that gorgeous PSP color. It is really unbelievable looking at this game today and just seeing what was achievable on Sony's first handheld. This is another game that just cleans up incredibly well and looks fantastic here on the G Cloud. Here's another technical achievement on the PlayStation Portable. Coming in at number 22 with a Metacritic score of 86 is Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. This would be the second GTA game release on the PSP, and it really is incredible that Rockstar was able to squeeze the world of Vice City onto the PlayStation Portable. It's got all the details that you would expect from its Big Brother version while being its own new entry in the franchise. The game also has no problems running at 3x native resolution, and it's shocking how good it still looks. This is a fantastic game to be able to have on your G Cloud for those times that you aren't connected to the internet. You definitely won't be bored with this one. The hits just keep on coming, and we're only on number 21. God of War Ghost of Sparta is the second entry on the PlayStation Portable, and yet again, Ready at Dawn is responsible for this incredible and technically impressive entry in the God of War franchise. This was actually one of the later releases for the platform, and definitely shows just how much Ready at Dawn was able to squeeze out of the PSP. This game unsurprisingly needed a frame skip of 1 enabled to keep things nice and smooth at 3x native resolution. Nothing too bad, and personally, I'm willing to take that trade-off to keep it at 3x resolution, which just looks fantastic on this screen. Coming in at number 20 with a Metacritic score of 86 is Patapon, which was a completely new franchise for the PSP and a very refreshing change of pace with its innovative gameplay using rhythm-based mechanics. French graphic artist Rolito lends his unique style to create the visual aspects of the Patapon world. This franchise would see 2 additional sequels on the PlayStation Portable, but for the sake of this video, only the original makes the top 25 list. No surprise here, but the game has no issues running at 3x native resolution, and its graphical style really holds up nicely today. Here comes number 19, and the first racing game on this list. Burnout Legends is just an absolute gem of a game. There is no denying how much I love the entire Burnout franchise, featuring it quite a bit on my channel. But Burnout Legends is just truly something special. It's essentially a best of Burnout crammed into a portable game, which to this day I am not sure how Criterion managed to pull that one off. This is the full-fledged Burnout experience that was available on a portable device way back in 2005. It was the kind of game that made me very proud to be a PSP owner and is one of the finest games on the platform. Burnout Legends is running great at 3x native resolution and really cleans up nicely, showing just how technically impressive this game was for the time. And here we have number 18, PixelJunk Monsters Deluxe, which was actually released originally on the PlayStation 3, comes to the PSP with this deluxe version. Now I remember purchasing this game when it released physically on UMD way back and played it back when I commuted on the Metro. It instantly became one of my absolute favorite games on the platform and one of the earlier introductions to tower defense games for me. The gameplay is addictive with tons of replay value that feels fairly balanced but difficult to master. I am not surprised to see this one on the top 25 list as it is one of the best on the PSP. And to no one's surprise, the game is running here at 3x native resolution without any issues and looks so nice and crispy. Moving up on the Metacritic score with 87 and coming in at number 17 is LittleBigPlanet. Now this is another game that began life on the PlayStation 3, finding its way eventually to the PlayStation Portable after its original success on its Big Brother console. However, with what seems to be a very consistent theme among a lot of the games on this list is the sheer technical achievement at hand here to get the essentially full LittleBigPlanet experience running on the PlayStation Portable. There's definitely nothing little about it, and it is another game that will keep you enthralled for hours with its great creative gameplay. Once again, this game runs at 3x native resolution with not one issue. Okay, so we're starting to get somewhere here, and coming in at number 16 comes a surprising entry, for me at least. Velocity was originally released as part of the PlayStation Minis lineup and was a digital-only release for the PlayStation Network. I've never actually played this one before, so I was pretty excited to try it out for this video, and this is definitely a cool one. It's an awesome blend of a shmup with gameplay that requires you to plan and think. It's a great fit for the platform with its addictive but quick pick-up-and-play nature. Do not let the graphics fool you one bit. This is as enjoyable as any game I will be featuring here today. today. Obviously, this game will have no issues running at 3 times native resolution and could probably go much higher than that. It's a really cool game, and I will definitely be returning to this one quite a bit. Oh yeah, the legendary Disgaea series coming in at number 15, and this would mark the first time that the franchise went portable, which at the time was a very big deal. This is a port of the PlayStation 2 game with bonus content, making this a very complete and faithful way to play the game. For strategy RPG fans, this game has that deep gameplay, incredible characters, humor, and writing with full-on voice acting. There's just so much to love here with the Disgaea series, and for those looking to have a meaty, full-fat game to enjoy while offline, there is no better game to play than this on your Logitech G. This one looks great on the nice 7-inch screen.
They're my loyal servants. They'll do anything I say. Are you sure about that?
Coming in at number 14 is Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. Now unfortunately I do not have a lot of experience with this game despite being a pretty big fan of the Metal Gear franchise. Interestingly, this is not the first time the Metal Gear franchise appears on PSP. That honor goes to the Metal Gear Acid spin-off series. Anyways, Portable Ops takes place after the events of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater and was thoughtfully designed to take advantage of the PSP as a platform. Regardless, this game does not skimp out on anything and features a great storyline and full voice acting from the usual voice actors. Now excuse me while I get back into this one and cross this off my bucket list. And the franchise appearing for the second time on this list is Syphon Filter Dark Mirror coming in at number 13. Dark Mirror is actually the first time that the franchise makes an appearance on Sony's handheld. For many, this was a nice return to excellence for the Syphon Filter franchise after a pretty average showing on the PS2 and ending its run on the original PlayStation with the lackluster Syphon Filter 3. Just like I mentioned for its sequel Logan Shadow, this game really demonstrated just what was possible on Sony's PlayStation Portable and truly gave us a home console experience on the go. Sony Bend was another studio doing some great stuff on Sony's handheld. Dark Mirror does have some occasional frame dips, but nothing too bad. Coming in at number 12 is a very cool remake of a fantastic turn-based strategy RPG from Super Nintendo days. Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together may not win any awards for its graphics, however, Tactics Ogre is all about the fantastic gameplay, soundtrack, characters, and story, and this one has it in full capacity. It stays true to the source material while fixing any issues of the original that would only serve to frustrate players today. This is one well worth checking out for fans of games like Final Fantasy Tactics. At first glance, you might find the game is not working correctly, but turning off simulate block transfer effects in PPSSPP settings will resolve the bad glitches and the game will work like a charm. The art style looks so good here on the Logitech's big 16:9 screen. Coming right in ahead of Tactics Ogre at number 11 is Jeanne D'Arc, another turn-based strategy RPG and an entirely new game from the RPG masters at Level 5. This one was released as a PSP exclusive and to this day is only available on this platform. As the title suggests, the game is loosely based on the story of Joan of Arc and takes place during the 100 Years' War in the early 15th century. The production values in this game are on another level with fantastic visuals, voice acting, presentation, story, and fantastic tactical-based gameplay. It's another game that just looks so incredible, cleaned up at 3 times native resolution and matched with the 7-inch 16:9 screen makes this a fantastic experience. And finally, we have made it to the top 10, and coming in at number 10, with the first of a Metacritic score of 88, is none other than Ridge Racer.
Ridge Racer! Remember that one?
This one was actually a launch title for the PlayStation Portable, and wow, was it a great way to show off what the PSP could do. Now, I love the Ridge Racer franchise and desperately miss it today, but thankfully we can go back and revisit fantastic entries in the franchise like this one on the PlayStation Portable. What's not to love about this game? It's fast, fun, and the graphics and music are awesome. This one is just a pure blast and has always been one of my favorite racing games on the PSP. The game runs very well at 3x native resolution, and it's just such a joy to see it running this well and looking this sharp here on the G Cloud handheld. Moving up on the list to number 9, and the first fighting game being featured on this list, Tekken Dark Resurrection was an absolute banger of a fighting game that at the time was pretty much considered to be the best fighting game released for any handheld device. This is pretty much as you would expect it to be, and that's Tekken crammed into a tiny UMD disc. The controls are spot on, graphics are fantastic, and gameplay is what we've come to expect from the Tekken franchise. This one is looking great and running pretty well at 3x native resolution. And at number 8, and unsurprisingly, another Grand Theft Auto game, this time with Liberty City Stories taking the spotlight. The first GTA game that appeared on the PSP, and wow, was it a big deal when this happened. Liberty City Stories acts as a prequel to Grand Theft Auto 3, and just like that game, takes place in Liberty City. To no surprise, this one was a massive success on the PSP and would eventually get a PS2 port and ports to other mobile platforms. It's definitely the game that really made you feel like you were getting a PlayStation 2 handheld. Again, the PSP was just absolutely incredible for its time. Liberty City Stories cleans up very nicely and still holds up well despite the concessions needed to get this to run on the PSP. It looks very nice here at 3x native resolution. And at number 7, we finally have a Final Fantasy game making the list, and I am truly surprised that this is yet another turn-based strategy RPG for the platform appearing on the top 25. It's very obvious that the PSP was fortunate to receive excellent strategy RPGs, and fans of that genre should definitely take notice. Now enough of that, let's talk more about the game at hand here. Final Fantasy Tactics: The War of the Lions is similar to Tactics Ogre in that it is a remaster of its original release, in this case being Final Fantasy Tactics for the original PlayStation. As expected, this game brings new features and plenty of important quality of life updates to make this one of the best ways to play the Final Fantasy spin-off. Unsurprisingly, this game has no issues running here on PPSSPP, and despite having it set to 3x native resolution, I'm sure this is one that could go higher. Regardless, it runs very well. Moving on to number 6 with another racing game, but this time with a different take. Wipeout Pure is another launch PSP title that just absolutely blew me away in 2005. I always enjoy Wipeout on the PlayStation 1, but I think it really was the PSP games that took it to another level for me. Now, I did say Ridge Racer was a great way to show off the PSP at launch, but in some ways I think Wipeout Pure was even more impressive with out-of-this-world visuals, super fast and fun gameplay, awesome tracks. I mean, everything here is just top-notch. To be fair, it would only get bested by its eventual sequel on the PSP. This game looks so glorious here on the G Cloud, and wow, does the 3x native resolution let this game come through and shine. It was already gorgeous back on PSP's 2005 16:9 LCD screen, but here it's playing like a brand new game, and this is why emulation is so fantastic. We have finally cracked the top 5, and coming in at number 5 with another entry for this franchise is Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. It doesn't come as much surprise that this game is part of the top 5 and being one of the later PSP releases coming out in 2010, which was a very stacked year for the PSP. Peace Walker takes place after the events of Metal Gear Solid 3 and Portable Ops and brings us to Costa Rica in 1974. This was an interesting blend of gameplay elements from Metal Gear Solid 4 and brings some changes to the mechanics from Portable Ops to make this the better game and experience overall. As always with Metal Gear Solid, the excellent story and voice acting are present and as good as ever. This game runs great at 3 times native resolution.
You should be familiar with the left and right camera buttons now. Press the action button if you're ready to move on. Okay.
It's definitely not a secret on my channel, but number 4 is one of my favorite games of all time, and personally, I am not surprised it is this high up on the list. Lumines was the perfect game to launch with the PlayStation Portable. It was the PSP's Tetris, but it made use of every bit of technology available in the PSP with the absolutely stunning visuals taking advantage of the 16:9 display or the UMD that allowed the brilliant soundtrack to shine. All of these years later, and I still find myself playing the original classic from PSP because of how perfect it is to me. For this game, I actually got the 60 frames per second cheat and the updated textures to clean things up further, and wow, this game looks better than ever here on the G Cloud. This is one I will always keep loaded up on this device because of how great it is at killing time. With the 60 frames per second patch and the updated textures, we are still running great here at 3 times native resolution. Now, I was wondering when we were going to see this next one, and at number 3, Persona 3 Portable makes the list. 2010 was definitely a big hitter year for the PSP, and probably its last hurrah in terms of relevance in the market. Unfortunately for Sony, Nintendo and the DS were just absolute monsters, and the PSP was always stuck in its shadows. Now, Persona 3 Portable would be the 3rd time that Persona 3 was released, but the obvious big addition here was that we could finally play Persona 3 on a portable device, and this game didn't skip out on anything. With Persona 3 Portable, you are getting the same incredible game that first appeared on the PlayStation 2, and it's easily one of the best games and certainly one of the best RPGs on the platform. As expected, the game runs great at 3 times native resolution. There's a pretty good texture UI replacement project available for this game, but I do not have it shown here. Again, I will have a link to the PPSSPP forums that contains all of these projects so you can check them out.
One thing in return that you abide.
Okay, I have to admit that number 2 surprised me. Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars makes it on the list with a Metacritic score of 90. Now, I am partly surprised because this game was actually a port from the Nintendo DS. However, the PSP version improved on the already great DS version, and if you aren't familiar, Chinatown Wars was a nice blend between the more modern GTA games with the return of the classic overhead GTA style. Now, I never really cared for GTA prior to the release of GTA 3, but I really do enjoy Chinatown Wars because of how well it blends both styles. It's the perfect game to play on a handheld for its fun pick up and play style gameplay and retains all the charm that makes the modern GTA games so much fun to explore and play. So maybe on second thought, I can see why Chinatown Wars is so high on this list, because it is a pretty incredible game that most will enjoy. Visually, this game looks so nice at 3 times native resolution and really lets this game shine here on the G Cloud. This is another game well worth keeping on your device and playing through. Absolutely great stuff.
What happened to changing the world?
And finally, we come to number 1, and I wonder if anyone was able to actually guess what number 1 might be. Well, for me, I guess I'm not surprised at all, but the spot belongs to God of War Chains of Olympus, with a Metacritic score of 91. Chains of Olympus was the first time that God of War appeared on the PSP, and this was definitely a big deal in 2005 as an exclusive PlayStation Portable title. You basically had the full God of War experience in the palm of your hands, further solidifying the idea of having a PlayStation 2 in your pocket. Ready at Dawn yet again shows why they were masters of the PSP, pushing a handheld with gorgeous visuals and presentation. Chains of Olympus is also one of the big titles that many YouTubers like to use as a benchmark for PSP emulation, and so with that, similar to Ghost of Sparta, this is the only other game on the list of 25 that needed a frame skip of 1 to keep things nice and consistent at the 3 times native resolution, which I am really enjoying visually on the Logitech G. And so with that, we have finally come to the end. I really enjoyed exploring the top 25 Metacritic PSP games. I mean, it's just so obvious how good of a platform the PlayStation Portable was and still is to this day. There's just so much for someone to explore and enjoy here on Sony's first handheld, and for the Logitech G Cloud, this device had no issues achieving the metrics I set out initially, which was to essentially run all the games mentioned here at 3 times native resolution. So yeah, I guess we can say that the G Cloud makes an excellent choice for someone looking to do high quality PSP emulation with the excellent 16:9 7-inch screen that is well suited to the original game's aspect ratio with its incredibly lightweight and comfortable design. With the holiday season coming up, I say if you can get one of these for a good price, go for it, because it's really becoming one of my favorite handhelds and ways to play emulation and just gaming in general with cloud streaming. And so, I thank you so much for exploring PSP with me on the Logitech G Cloud. I hope you enjoyed. This is the Retro Tech Dad, and I'll see you in the next video.